Germany's economy has been the envy of Europe for decades, but no longer. The country is now officially in recession.
Well, it looks like we've been here before. The year was 1998 when The Economist labelled the German economy as the sick man of Europe. The culprits? Of course, many of us know the story. A combination of reunification, a collapsing job market, double-digit unemployment rates, and the slowing down of export demands. All of these stood against the German economy, sending it straight into the sickbed. Thankfully, things didn't worsen beyond this for Germans, as the German government tackled the situation head-on, developing a series of reforms in the early 2000s, leading us to the prestigious era for the Germans called the Golden Age. From rotting away with severe economic issues to becoming the envy of its peers in quick succession, Germany undoubtedly began to be understudied globally. Not only were the trains running on time, but the country stood out as an exporting powerhouse while promoting its world-beating engineering sector. For years, the inscription "Made in Germany" was the real deal. You don't have to doubt it. The seal was the peak of excellence that no other country could match at the time. Between 2006 and 2017, Germany outpaced many giant economies and kept pace with America, thanks to these early reforms at the start of the century. However, while Germany enjoyed its golden age and became a beacon of hope for other struggling countries, the world continued to turn and evolve while Germany seemingly only continued to bask in their newly found glory. As a result, the giant economy of Europe suddenly seems to be falling behind. From unprecedented growth, Germany is somehow becoming a laggard, encountering economic challenges that look much worse the more you examine. First, less than a decade ago, the German economy was compared to that of the US. Sadly, now, recent reports have revealed that Germany is exhibiting the weakest recovery from the pandemic among other European countries. And even more damning is the fact that forecasts increasingly indicate that Germans shouldn't expect significant growth in 2024 either. Looking far beyond what meets the eye, it's easy to see the multiple symptoms of this collapsing economy, and as a matter of fact, it didn't just happen today. This has been slowly developing in the background for a long time and has just reached its maximum. You see, this is a ticking time bomb approaching its stoppage seconds. Let's begin with inflation. Inflation in Germany is running hotter than in most of its European counterparts. To put this into perspective, Germany is currently experiencing its highest inflation in almost 50 years, worse than what the case was just 25 years ago when it was called the sick man of Europe. To be honest, wages have actually been increasing in Germany. In fact, they are more than those of its neighbours. However, these increases have struggled to keep up with the pace of the rising costs of living that Germans currently suffer. In other words, the sticky inflation is significantly reducing Germany's purchasing power while enabling the fear of spending among households. Consumer prices increased by 6.2% in July 2023, more than they did in the same month in 2022. And even worse is the fact that this is well above the 5.3% average increase rate across all European countries. Housing costs have equally been rising, especially across several urban areas in the cities like Munich, Berlin, and Hamburg. And the reason is somehow not far-fetched. These areas are experiencing increased influx, which in turn causes a high demand, while housing supply remains limited. But beyond the increasing rental prices, the cost of healthcare has also steadily risen over the last decade. While undoubtedly Germany enjoyed a comprehensive healthcare system, arguably better than those of other first world countries like the United Kingdom, individuals still have to contribute through insurance premiums and out-of-pocket expenses to access certain treatments and services. Moving away from inflation and its accompanying circumstances, the broader industrial sector, which includes exemplary and top manufacturers like Siemens and Volkswagen, has also taken a knock. Since the country's dramatic response to its economic downturns about 25 years ago, Germany has traditionally been known for its strong manufacturing sector. But scratching away the surface lies our reality that this sector has been experiencing a decline in industrial production for several years. And no, the pandemic isn't the culprit here, although it did contribute immensely to this impending collapse. Germany's industrial production was already in a downturn before the pandemic, and now that the pandemic is far over, Germany somehow seems to be struggling to recover from the resulting shock, making the situation even worse. In June 2023, official reports revealed that Germany's industrial output went negative in May and contracted up to 1.7% on the same month a year earlier. See, business activities generally in Germany are dropping, both manufacturing and services. In August 2023, it dropped at the fastest rate since May 2020, when the country was gradually lifting the stringent pandemic restrictions. To put this into perspective, let's make a bit of a comparison with Germany's relationship with China now and what it was a few years ago. In 2021, China was Germany's second biggest export market, contributing significantly to the country's GDP. However, today, China has slipped down the ranks, becoming Germany's fourth biggest export market. Of course, many people believe this happened because China has become a competitor and doesn't need German-produced goods as much as it did in the past. The effects of Germany's cocktail of economic problems and how it crippled demand for German goods cannot be overlooked too. But there are even deeper and more significant issues, and this comes from the energy transition. Germany's industrial sector uses nearly twice as much energy as the next biggest in Europe, and its consumers have a much bigger carbon footprint than those in France or Italy. I mean, what do you expect from a manufacturing-based company like Germany? However, this has led to an even bigger problem of over-reliance. Since it closed most of its coal-fired power stations and nuclear capacity, Germany has been unavoidably heavily reliant on natural gas, most of which is supplied by Russia. Before the Ukrainian invasion, Russia supplied more than half of Germany's gas while also being a significant user of Russian oil. However, since after the invasion and the West's heavy sanctions on Russia, Germany is now left bare, and maybe naked. Cheap Russian gas is no longer an option, and remember that Germany has also turned away from nuclear power earlier. What a spectacular own goal against Germany. Now, the country struggles with a lack of investments, and a sluggardly permit system is hobbling the transition to cheap renewable energy, threatening to make manufacturers less competitive. Somehow, this has also affected foreign investments. More and more American corporations are rapidly losing faith in Germany as a favorable business destination. And even worse is the fact that several German companies are equally increasing investments abroad, leaving the country with a significant investment gap, which continues to widen. But it's not the only capital outflow that is increasing. Lack of talent is another crucial issue. Germany is losing its talent increasingly and might soon fall short of useful labor. Already, 2/5 of employers are saying they're struggling to find skilled workers, while the state of Berlin cannot fill even half of its teaching vacancies with qualified staff. Like others, this didn't happen suddenly. This is a ripple effect that we can trace far back to the Second World War. A baby boom after the Second World War means that at least 2 million workers will retire over the next 5 years. Equally, despite attracting more than 1 million Ukrainian refugees, the talent gap continues to widen, primarily because most of these refugees are children and non-working women who may soon return home after the unrest of their country subsides, leaving Germany in the middle of nowhere. To be honest, we can go on, and it wouldn't be difficult to run out of these signals. So when you ask if Germany is indeed becoming the sick man of Europe again, you might not be precisely wrong. Now, we can't help but to wonder if the collapse of the German economy will affect the European Union, and, by extension, other countries globally, or not. Well, the truth is, yes, it is contagious, and the consequences might be consequential. Despite the struggles, Germany is still the largest economy in Europe and the 4th largest in the world, while remaining the 3rd largest exporter globally. In other words, Germany is such a significant stronghold, too much so that a collapse might impact the rest of Europe, especially affecting investment, trade, and political dynamics. As a major exporter, Germany's manufactured goods undoubtedly form a significant portion of global trade. Therefore, disruptions in German production or supply chains could disrupt trade flows not only within Europe, but also globally. This could affect businesses and industries across the EU, particularly those closely linked to the German supply chains. The cascading effects of the potential collapse could even lead to a broader slowdown or recession across Europe. Lastly, a wobbly Germany might lead to an intervention of ambitious forces, pushing their agendas that may be contrary to the European Union's foundational values of democracy centered around freedom and human rights. However, in the same vein, we must understand that these things might be turning sour, but it isn't as alarming as it was in the late 1990s. Compared to 25 years ago, Germany is richer and more open, while unemployment isn't as insane as it was back in 1999. So this explains that Germany might ultimately escape the sickbed, as all it needs now is a host of societal and economic reforms to kickstart the economy. And considering the fact that the country has done it before just 25 years ago when things were even more challenging, the hope for a recovery can only be better. Thanks to its predominantly small and mid-sized enterprise structure and the presence of numerous hidden champions across various sectors, the German economy has apparently been structured to quickly adapt to changing market conditions. More importantly, strict fiscal discipline in previous years kept the German government's debt to GDP ratio at an internationally low level of 61% in 2022. Therefore, the German government still boasts significant fiscal firepower to support economic reforms, especially to support Agenda 2030, the framework for Germany's development policy, for which the German Federal Ministry of Economic Cooperation and Development, BMC, is responsible within the German government. So, in the end, for now, we might not be too sure about the direction the German economy is heading towards, whether we'll see a repeat of history or a new chapter beginning to unfold. We have now come to the end of this video. Thank you for joining us. Now go ahead and explore our other videos on the Declassified channel. Until that time, stay safe and keep digging for the truth. Bye for now.